Hey, what's up guys, and thanks for joining me today as we take a look at Beijing, China. Last week's video took us through Shanghai, China, a very, very different city. Shanghai is much more considered, the doorway to China, the international city. Beijing is much more considered the political and cultural capital, and because of that, is very different than almost every other city in China. Not to mention, it has been the capital for over 700 years. We're going to take a look at some of the people and places that make Beijing what it is, the cultural heart of China. So the question is, do you need to be fluent in Chinese to visit Beijing?
你说的很有道理，就是你来讲。
Definitely not. You can certainly get by with the awesome technology available in cell phone apps like Google Translate. Many signs have English on them. Public transportation is fairly easy to navigate, and you can certainly survive. Just like any other place in the world, a little respect goes a long ways, and I definitely recommend brushing up on even a little bit of Mandarin. People will ask for your pictures, approach you on the street offering to sit or get you a drink, and if you're lucky, maybe even find you a wife. And the layout of Beijing is very different than most modern cities. It's actually built outward from ancient Beijing, centered around the Forbidden City in People's Square. Now we're going to head right to the center, the Gate of Heavenly Peace, or Tian An Men. And what Tian An Men is basically just a huge square. Huge roads intersect this area where you can walk and look and take pictures. It's filled with all kinds of museums, Chairman Mao's mausoleums, really good restaurants, and all kinds of similar attractions. I'm much more excited about what's beyond the wall, and that's the Forbidden City. And this apparently is where the Emperor lived and where all the troops were garrisoned. And no lie, it feels like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon vibes, ancient feeling, lots of power, absolutely nothing like this in the United States. And just a short walk down the way is my favorite place in Old Beijing, and that's the Temple of Heaven. It's lined with ancient pagodas and structures, old guys fixing the grout and concrete by hand, showing up early, doing calligraphy with water. It basically feels like you're in another world. Definitely have to check that out when you're in Beijing. I love the ancient aspects of Beijing, but Beijing is not all old. Beijing has one of the most modern airports in the world. It has beautiful five-star hotels, malls holding every brand you could ever want, bespoke Ferraris lining the streets as you walk around. My fantastic friends from New York, Alex and Alice, blew me away and elevated my standard to what I thought art and tea and a museum could even be. And we actually capped it off by having tea at this ancient converted tea house. And the Beijingese people overall just exude a warmth and a willingness to engage that just blows me away. The best place to maybe see this is actually in the Hutong region of Beijing. Hutongs are essentially what's left of the ancient neighborhood structures of Beijing. Large family residences are connected by these narrow corridors. They're now converted to bars, restaurants, small shops, and the like. These are all great places for rubbing elbows with Beijingese, especially at night. And right nearby is HouHai. So the HouHai region is super close, and it's the rear of 3 lakes. Walking around is just a great place to see and take in the Beijing culture. You can sample some handmade stinky tofu, haggle over counterfeit cigarettes, or just take a walk and enjoy the lamplit pathways. And of course, on the way home, you can see an entire family putting together this glass for the business. It's vibes like these that just make Beijing a very unique place. I'm tired, and that wraps it up for Beijing Part 1. And like and subscribe for Part 2, where I'll be going through Beijing, checking out some of the coolest activities to do, and covering some of the most delicious eats to be found on the Beijing streets. Thanks again, guys. We'll see you next week.